Arthur Blackwood had built his empire on control. Control over numbers, over people, over risk. But the night he ordered the installation of hidden cameras inside his own mansion, he realized control was nothing compared to fear. Fear crept silently, like the echo of his own footsteps in the long marble corridors. Fear that no amount of money could silence. 3 years earlier, a car accident on a rain-soaked bridge had taken his wife, Eleanor, and left his newborn triplets alive but forever changed. Doctors called it a miracle with consequences. The children survived, but all 3 were left disabled in different ways. One could not speak, another could not walk, and the third suffered seizures that came without warning. Arthur had traded private jets for hospital corridors, boardrooms for therapy rooms, and sleep for constant vigilance. He loved his children with a ferocity that terrified even him, but love did not erase the reality that his wealth made them targets. Kidnapping attempts had been stopped quietly, extortion letters burned unread. Employees came and went, but trust never stayed. When the previous night nurse was caught selling photos of the children to tabloids, something in Arthur broke. That was when he decided no one would ever know they were being watched. Not the doctors, not the security team, and certainly not the new maid who arrived on a quiet Monday morning, carrying nothing but a small suitcase and eyes too calm for someone. Entering the lion's den, her name was Grace Miller, mid-20s, modest clothes, soft voice. She did not recognize Arthur Blackwood as the billionaire everyone feared. She only greeted him like a tired man and unsettled him. Cameras were placed behind decorative vents, inside smoke detectors, hidden in bookshelf carvings, every angle of the nursery, therapy room, kitchen, and corridors, feeding into his private study. Arthur told himself it was protection, not paranoia. Yet every night, instead of sleeping, he sat before glowing screens, watching his children breathe, flinch, cry, exist. He observed nurses doing their jobs with mechanical care, therapists following routines, guards scanning monitors, and then there was Grace. At first she moved quietly, efficiently, almost invisibly. She cleaned, cooked, folded tiny clothes with careful precision. She never touched the children unless instructed. She never lingered. Arthur felt disappointed. No red flags meant no relief. But on the 5th night, long past midnight, one camera caught something unexpected. Grace entered the nursery when she wasn't scheduled to. Arthur's heart slammed against his ribs. He leaned closer, ready to call security. Instead, he watched as she sat on the floor, beside the crib of Liam, the triplet who screamed through the night, unable to communicate pain. Grace didn't hush him. She didn't call for help. She placed her palm on the floor and began tapping softly, rhythmically. 3 taps, pause. 3 taps, pause. Liam's cries slowed. His rigid body softened. Arthur froze. No doctor had ever mentioned rhythm therapy. Grace then began humming, not a lullaby, but a low, steady tone, almost like a heartbeat. Liam slept within minutes. Arthur rewound the footage again and again, disbelief mixing with suspicion. Coincidence, he told himself. The next day, Emma, the child confined to a wheelchair, refused her physical therapy session, crying uncontrollably. Grace was not assigned to assist, yet the cameras showed her kneeling before Emma later, eye level, holding a mirror and smiling exaggeratedly, making silent expressions, turning therapy into a game. Emma laughed. For the first time in weeks, she lifted her arms voluntarily. Arthur's chest tightened. Professionals with degrees hadn't achieved that. A maid had. By the end of the week, Noah, the triplet plagued by seizures, had fewer episodes during Grace's shifts. Arthur began tracking patterns obsessively, comparing data, logs, timestamps. The results made no sense. Grace wasn't following medical protocol. She was breaking it, and somehow it was working. Still, Arthur didn't trust miracles. His life had taught him that kindness often hid an invoice. He ordered a background check so deep it reached childhood. Teachers and forgotten neighbors. Nothing alarming appeared, no criminal history, no suspicious ties. Just one strange detail. Grace had spent 3 years volunteering at a private care facility that shut down quietly after a legal dispute. Records sealed. Arthur's instinct screamed, One evening, as rain battered the mansion windows, the cameras showed something that made his blood run cold. Noah began seizing violently while a nurse panicked, calling for a doctor. Grace pushed past protocol, gently but firmly guiding the nurse away. Arthur stood up, ready to intervene. Grace dimmed the lights, placed Noah on his side, pressed specific pressure points Arthur had never seen, and whispered words the microphones barely caught. The seizure ended faster than usual. The nurse stared in shock. Arthur sank back into his chair, breath shallow. Who was this woman? Why did she know things doctors didn't? And why, when she thought no one was watching, did she sometimes look straight at the camera? Not in fear, but in sadness, like someone carrying a secret too heavy to set down? That night, Arthur realized something terrifying. The cameras he installed to protect his children were slowly exposing how little he understood them and how much this stranger did. As he stared at the screens, torn between gratitude and dread, one thought echoed relentlessly in his mind. If she is this good, what is she hiding? And as the chapter of his suspicion deepened, so did a question for everyone watching this story unfold. If someone unexpected walked into your life and changed everything, would you recognize them as a threat or a blessing? If this story is pulling you into its mystery, make sure you subscribe now, because what Arthur discovers next will challenge everything he believes about trust, love, and the true meaning of protection. Arthur Blackwood's suspicion turns into a quiet investigation as he can no longer ignore what the cameras reveal about Grace. Torn between fear and gratitude, he begins to test her, not openly, but by creating situations meant to expose her true intentions. Medical routines are subtly altered, staff are rotated, and pressure is increased around the children. Yet every challenge only proves one thing. Grace's presence consistently brings calm, progress, and emotional safety to the disabled triplets. Slowly, Arthur notices something deeper. Grace does not care about his wealth, his power, or his name. Her world revolves entirely around the children. The emotional turning point comes when Arthur finally confronts Grace after discovering sealed records from the care facility where she once worked. Instead of denying or fleeing, Grace reveals the painful truth. She once had disabled triplet siblings of her own, abandoned by their parents and neglected by a corrupt institution. She raised them like a mother until a tragic incident caused by staff negligence took their lives. The facility was shut down, the truth buried, and Grace walked away, carrying unbearable guilt and grief. When she saw Arthur's children, she didn't see a job. She saw a second chance to protect lives she couldn't save before.